Hey everybody, and it's finally here. I've got your official Northeast spring forecast. I'm not doing the whole country for this video. I'm just going to be focusing on the Northeast. So we're kind of going to go month by month. We're mainly going to focus on April because I guess we could say April is, the midway point of spring, like late April into early May. And then we're going to look at the rest of spring, so like May, April, May, and then eventually June. So we're just going to start off by looking at the GFS model for temperatures. This goes out until April 20th because we only get 384 hours out of the GFS. So we're just going to look at, what pattern we're going to be dealing with and how high those temperatures are exactly going to get. So what we've got going here is basically it's normal. You've got warm temperatures though. Some temperatures have been reaching to the 70s a lot farther south though. So widespread 70s and 80s for the southern mid Atlantic. For you guys, that'll definitely be consistent for Long Island, New Jersey, New York City, Pennsylvania. All of you guys for the Mid Atlantic, you guys will be getting 60s, and then sometimes, occasionally, you'll get into the lower 70s. But 80s is for you guys down here in like Virginia, um, Kentucky, stuff like that. But then here comes another really strong warm front that's going to make it even farther north. Look at these mid 80s for pretty much all of this area, Ohio Valley, Appalachian Mountain regions. Even you guys will get into the 70s and 80s. But yeah, this continues pushing eastward. And the way I know that a storm system is going to be coming here is because you can see there's a cold front on the backside of this, and it's pushing this warm front out so much that a perfect line is forming right there. So, excuse me. Why don't we switch it back to the precipitation? And yes, we do have a storm system brewing right here. So, very interesting to see how we can kind of tell between just from a warm front and a cold front, we can just kind of tell where a storm's going to be and when. So, very interesting there. So, let's go back to our temperatures here. And so, this warm front's going to get kicked out of the way from that very strong cold front, but then it's going to rebound, come back, and then you've got widespread 70s getting into Long Island, New York City, parts of southern Connecticut. You guys could get into the 70s. Some parts, a few parts of uh, New Jersey are going to get into the 80s on the 6th. So actually, I believe this is on Thursday. So yeah, many of you on Thursday, it's going to be very warm in the 80s for southern, excuse me, southern New Jersey. Then for Long Island, New York City, it's going to be upper 60s and lower 70s. So the warm air, we can already tell that like the actual Northeast, like upstate regions of like New York State, Massachusetts, Vermont, New Hampshire, you guys will definitely be in the 60s, just not very consistent. And for Maine, southern Maine could definitely get into the lower 60s, but I think northern Maine, you guys have to wait until it's like late April to get into those like warmer temperatures. But here comes another cold front pushing that warm air out of the way, and you've got widespread 30s and 40s. So it's going to be pretty chilly on the night of the 6th, which would be Thursday. Then you're waking up on the 7th, and then by 2 p.m. you'll start seeing those 50s and the lower 60s coming back. But it's not going to be warm that day, so that looks like Friday. And then you don't get much warm air. You get a pretty strong boundary of cold air kind of shooting its way past Canada into parts of northern Maine. Now, this is going to send temperatures dropping into the 20s for most of Maine. And this is on looks like the morning of the 9th. Then here comes another warm front, and you're getting more 60s and 50s for the Northeast. So it's not until the 10th where everything really starts coming into shape. Here, look at southern Maine, finally hitting 60 degrees. You've got pretty much everyone in 60 degrees, and then some parts of Kentucky getting into those 70s. Excuse me, guys. I've got a really nasty cold brewing. But we're gonna definitely see those widespread, warm temperatures that are really going to be, kind of marking the start of this spring season. But then this is the night of the 10th. It's gonna be very cold. Well, not very cold, but it's gonna be cold. You'll have upper 30s and lower 40s. So we're basically gonna see where we see days where it's in the 60s and the 70s for most of the Northeast, and then nights where it's in the upper 40s and lower 50s for some. This is 8 p.m. You still got a little boundary of warm air left for New York City on the 11th, so you still might have temperatures around 60 degrees, and then here you're dropping into the lower 50s. Okay, so it's looking like a normal spring for you guys, but then this is the day where I think is the nicest. Everybody is in the 70s, even in Maine. Look at northern Maine in the 60s. But everybody's in the 70s. It's very consistent, widespread, upper 60s and lower 70s. So I think the 12th really marks the best day to be outside in April. That's what it looks like so far. But then here comes another very strong boundary of warm air, sending temperatures in Boston to 81 degrees. New York City, you guys are staying at around 75 degrees. Next day, the 13th, you've got even more widespread 60s and 70s along the Ohio Valley and the Ohio River. And then this is really maybe the strongest warm front. That's really going to bring temperatures sizzling into the 80s for parts of southern New Jersey and Pennsylvania, a lot of, Virginia, Kentucky, all of you guys will be in the 80s. But there's no doubt in my mind that this is not gonna that this is gonna make it to the interior parts of the Northeast. Because look at this, New York City, you guys are sizzling at like 85 degrees. Let's click for sounding to see this. This is 68 degrees, but that's on the coast. Let's try and get it right in the middle of New York City. Yeah, 83 degrees. So you guys are going to stay around 85 degrees for the 15th. That's what it's looking like so far. But man, is it going to be hot. So widespread 70s and 80s for you guys in the Northeast. But yet, we haven't seen that day where we're going to get the 90s. There is a little area in central Virginia that's going to be hitting 87 degrees around around the 15th. So we'll watch that. But then this is really when the start of spring really just, you don't see any more colder temperatures. It's just always, it's a cool night and then a very warm or maybe a little hot, day. But this is another one where you've got New York City at like 83 degrees. I mean, it's just going to be a bunch of warm shots of air, and it's going to be a very nice spring. I'll tell you, it's enjoyable. You got very warm temperatures around the 19th. You're back into the 70s and 80s. But yeah, I mean, it's a pretty nice spring, a pretty nice season to enjoy. So enjoy it if you're in the Northeast. So that's it for the GFS. We're just gonna look at what the National Climate Center would like to say about this. So out 8 to 14 days. So this goes 8. This is valid for April 12th to the 18th. This was actually issued today, so this is very interesting to look at. So this is for the 8th to the 14th, or actually, sorry, from the 12th to the 18th of April. Look at this, insane. This is the most above average temperature you can get on this little index here. This is 90 to 100% likely for above average temperatures. Includes all of the Ohio Valley, yeah, Indiana, Illinois, Missouri, a really good half of southeastern Iowa, all of Kentucky, and all of West Virginia. So a very big area is going to be included in this, but this means temperatures are really going to be hitting those 80s, and then maybe some areas a little farther south could get into the 90s. But regardless, I mean, let's go to the Northeast just to see what we're dealing with for you guys. And you can see here that what Long Island and New York City, all of you guys are in this almost in this dark red. This is just indicating that above average temperatures is almost definitely going to happen here. And then, I mean, this goes for pretty much all the Northeast. I know you guys here in the far north states are not in this more consistent red. Even though you're in the orange, doesn't mean you're excluded from that warm air. There is definitely going to be some warm shots of air that are really going to make, the daytime nice to enjoy and nice to be outside in. But man, is it going to be nice around the country here. And just for the northeastern states in general, it's going to be very warm. And it looks like we are not going to have much action with those storms. I think that it's mainly just going to be a pretty calm and beautiful spring. So now that's going to bring us to the monthly temperature outlook. So this is for all of April. You can see it's a little different from what we looked at. So, I mean, this is the ridge in the southeast. I know this is not a southeast forecast, but I just want to say that there is an above average, area for the southeast that's pretty much covering all of the extreme southeast. Then we'll go to the northeast. Got equal chances for most of you guys. We've got all of Massachusetts, northern half of Rhode Island. We've got all of Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire, all of New York State, well, upstate New York State. And then you guys in Long Island, New York City, and just this little area of the mid-Atlantic, you guys are going to be in slightly above average temperatures, but staying pretty consistent with looking like temperatures that are probably going to be ranging from the upper 60s to the 70s. So just interesting to look at, for this month of April. And yeah, so that's pretty much it. But you can see that we've been seeing. That we've been seeing this for a very long time. But what we've been seeing in the past months is the border of the cold air and the warm air is always right here in the central U.S. because you got the cold air still trying to overpower the warm air, but this warm air in the Gulf of Mexico is just so strong that it keeps pushing this cold air out of the way from letting a bunch of cold air pour into the Northeast and just the entire eastern U.S. in general. Just something to point out right there, but it's interesting to look at that, closely and kind of just break down why we're having temperatures, certain temperatures and how they work basically. Like why are they happening? Um but yeah, so that's pretty much it. And then we're just gonna look at the rest of spring. So this is the official spring forecast from national the National Climate Center. But we're going to zoom into the Northeast. And of course, what we've been seeing is above average temperatures, and that's what we're going to see for the rest of the season of spring. So, what we've got slightly above average temperatures for areas a little farther west, and then areas on the coastline, you guys are going to be at a very consistent, just plain above average temperatures. So, regardless, you're all going to be warm. I think for southern Maine and just the state of Maine, you guys will be a bit slower, maybe for some of you in northern New Hampshire and Vermont. But it's going to stay very warm for a very long time for pretty much all of you in the Northeast. And I'll tell you, you can enjoy your spring. So, that's going to wrap up the video, guys. But thank you for watching. If you haven't already, like, share, comment, subscribe if you're not subscribed to the channel. We'll see you guys in the next video. So, I hope you guys enjoyed this forecast here. And just make sure that you kind of spend some time outside during the spring because the nice weather will not last soon as summer will roll in with a bang.